We ran this, a version of this in Cape Town 2 weeks ago, so hopefully this will be the next iteration, V2, should be better. We're going to start with some formalities. The first formality is a selfie, so very formal. So if you guys can, in the middle, just try and look good. If you two can stand up. If you can try. Cool. All right, so one formality down. Next formalities, toilets, outside to the right and then the left. Wi-Fi, there is Wi-Fi, it is called Make. The code is Let's Build, so please jump on there. And then please use the hashtag for today called the hashtag the future of work. Many people are using that hashtag, so please use it in conjunction with @OfferZen, so please tag us. Candace, can you quickly just walk up to the front here? So we have, I don't know, who has OfferZen t-shirt? Yeah, hands quickly. Whoa, who doesn't have OfferZen? Well, everyone got one here, but okay. So this is Miu Miu. If we Miu Miu in the front, and if you turn around, Miu Miu on the back. This hoodie, there's a competition where you can win one of these hoodies tonight. So if you will post your stuff on Twitter, like the most, what is the rule? Most engaging?
Most tweets.
Most tweets, oh my goodness, that's going to cause noise. Okay, so Alex is going to pick on her, in her mind, which one, who wins the hoodie. But yeah, you get this hoodie, which you can't really get unless it's in one of these kind of competitions. So that's the Twitter thing. Thank you, Candace. Okay, cool. So just to get a bit of a gauge of the audience tonight, so who has not heard about OfferZen before? Wow, okay, cool. Who's got more than 5 OfferZen t-shirts? Okay, so we've got some diehards here. All right, cool. Who is not a software dev?
What?
Not a software dev. That was the question. Okay, cool. So we're like largely software devs. Who is a freelancer? Who is keen on perhaps becoming a freelancer? Okay, we got the right crowd. Okay, cool. So just a little bit of history on why we're sitting here tonight. So as OfferZen, we've been running Make Days, our own events. We also sponsor most of the meetups in South Africa, a bunch of the conferences. We try and give back a lot to the community. This year we are trying to double down on that, which actually I have to explicate means like do more of, not less of. Someone asked me that after the last double down. We're really going to do more of that. So we're going to invest in the community more this year. And when we were trying to figure out how to do that, I think the answer is not more t-shirts. It's not necessary. That will happen as well. But we really wanted to see how we can add value to what's happening in the South African community. And some of the big things that we saw is that we're quite a conservative company, company culture. We have generally conservative company culture. We're not as progressive as the rest of the world, and we believe that's kind of holding us back. So that kind of that was the beginning of the future of work idea, thinking that if we can get companies and people to believe that they can do things that are a bit more modern, a bit more progressive, then we can create more opportunity for people. So at OfferZen, we believe that talent is universally distributed, but opportunity is not. So we want to change that. And in order to do that, we need to get companies to start thinking that it's okay to have a freelancer. That's okay to have a diverse workplace. That's okay to do these kinds of things which they haven't done before. So we're kind of driving that message really hard into the community this year. So you'll see a lot of the future of work types of events. They might be about freelancing, which is about choosing how you work, when you work, who you work for, and we'll kind of unpack that tonight. It might be around inclusivity and diversity. You'll see we recently launched a foundation for that. It might just be about how to have a cool office space, which those kinds of events, we're trying to just bring everyone into the kind of the future of work, as the hashtag suggests. So that's where we are. So we're kind of on our second event for the year on that. We'll hopefully be doing a lot more. And we really want to know if it's useful for you. So at the end of this, please just find us. I have cards. You know who we are. You can find us on Twitter. We really want your feedback. So if it worked for you, if it didn't work for you, if you think of things that we can do better given our mission, please let us know. Okay, so we're going to start. Essentially, the format for tonight, we're going to talk about trying to what it takes to get into freelancing. So how to get your foot in the door, how to make that leap, how to kind of do that soft or to jump to kind of really do the hard switch. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk a little bit about once you're there, once you're a freelancer, what's important, what makes it viable, what makes it like a reality. So our freelancing division of OfferZen, their vision is to make freelancing like a viable option for both companies and for developers. So we're going to kind of unpack it for you guys, try and understand what that takes. So format will be I'll ask a bunch of questions here. We do have like a kind of question section at the end, but if you feel like super compelled to kind of be part of the conversation at any one point, just kind of chime in, put your hand up. We really do want to interact with you guys. So we'll do that. We'll have a break at 7:15, and then we'll jump back in and probably do more of a kind of open discussion. So to start off, I'm going to ask you guys to introduce yourselves, starting with you, Dries. If you can just introduce yourself, what your full name is, including middle names, please. Where you're from, what you do, and your favorite toothpaste, please.
Okay, that's where I draw the line.
Okay, I didn't break them for that.
So, my name is Dries Cronje. I'm a veteran of 3 articles on the OfferZen book. I climbed the corporate ladder for about 12 years, and I just got tired of the workplace, like you mentioned. I just sucked, and I just felt like I want to do this stuff. I want to do it the way I want to do it. And you've got a vision of the world, and it almost never aligns with your boss's vision of the world. So now I started a company at the end of last year. I didn't realize it was freelancing. It was just registering a PTY, and there you go. So yeah, that's me. And toothpaste is basically whatever my wife buys. I've got no idea what the last one is, kind of blue or something.
Okay, interesting, we don't know.
Yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Inez Patel. I am a user experience designer, freelancing. I don't have my own company, so I just go from client to client basis. I think we're going to get into why we're freelancing later, so I won't jump ahead, but that's what I do. So for money, I work for different clients, and then for not for money, I run 2 non-profit organizations. And my favorite toothpaste is this whole thing about this like charcoal toothpaste. So it's a bit like weird when you're brushing your teeth because it's actually black, but apparently it's better. So it's what I'm trying.
So the charcoal toothpaste, okay.
And now I want to hide from
Alright, so you got to be brave to be a freelancer.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's start with the content then. Essentially, let's start with the question that you were kind of preempting, like how did you get into freelancing? How did you start?
Okay. So really similar story. I was in corporate for a long time. And in terms of traditional success, I felt like I was doing well. You know, I was working for banks and doing traditional good things. But I did feel bored every day, or just like unchallenged. I was doing the same thing every day. And then I went on a 6-week backpacking trip to Central America. And every day was completely different. I never knew what I was going to do the next day or how I was going to do it. And I realized that I loved that completely. So I phoned my boss from Central America and I quit my job. So that was kind of what inspired me. I knew that I was bored and I wasn't being challenged enough. And every single client that I was sent to was just same problems, same boring, same things. And so I decided to try to figure out what I wanted to do by myself. When I came back from my trip, I withdrew the highest percentage of your pension fund that you can. It's not the wisest decision financially because I'll get taxed heavily later on. But I just used that to kind of spend 2 or 3 months doing a lot of volunteer work, relaxing, and actually like identifying type of work I like doing, why I like doing that work, and structuring that for myself. And then using that, that's when I started to then develop my idea of my ideal clients and my ideal work day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so quit your job, take out your pension. That's the advice. Okay, so I mean that's brave and well done for that. I think Dries chatting to you earlier, it's an interesting thing of like what the motivating factor is there, and the idea of what being successful is, and when that means something to you and when it doesn't. So you both like were successful and had careers and all that kind of stuff, but didn't feel successful in a different definition of the word. How do you interpret that, and how do you think about success in the traditional sense and success in what you actually wanted?
Okay, yeah. In the traditional sense, yes, I was kind of successful, but I never felt satisfied. And I think success is measured on how high you climb that corporate ladder, but it just doesn't always feel good. And I think success to me now, whereas I'm probably worse off financially or than what I was in a corporate job, success now is building cool things, being successful at helping a client, solving a problem, those kind of things, and it just feels good. You know, you get in bed at night and you feel satisfied. You feel like life is pretty good, even though looking at the sort of traditional way of measuring success, yeah, you're actually doing all the hard work now yourself, and yeah.
Does that resonate?
Yeah, completely. Because you, as a freelancer, you get to define the work that you do, which I think is the best part. So if you work for someone, they tell you what to do, and they tell you how to do it, and they tell you when to do it. But when you get to make those decisions yourself, that sense of independence that makes you feel successful.
Okay, so it's nice, like the happiness sounds nice. Money also sounds nice sometimes. Yeah. So how do you, those 2 months during that period when you're trying to make that trade-off? I mean, like, I think we've all done it when we've gone like, ooh, high paying job, or the other thing, whatever that other thing is. How do you quantify that, and what's the scary part of turning down the pension and the corporate and the Amazon job, and what is that scary part, and how do you deal with that?
Yeah, so I made a more calculated decision, and I spent.
It's hard to be less calculated.
I spent about 2 years just planning this thing out, and the one thing is you realize how many subscriptions you've got, and you start cancelling those.
Yeah.
Then you realize you actually don't need a car, and I sold my car, and you just cut all your expenditures down to the bone, and you realize you can actually get away and still have a decent life with all of that crap.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it took me about 2 years to pay off credit cards and get rid of subscriptions, sell my car, and marry. Well, a wife that's doing well. But then at one stage, you can always find one extra thing that you need to do. At one stage, you have to put that stake in the ground and say, at the end of September, usually after bonus month, so at the end of September, I quit, and that's it. You know, you don't. So yeah, that's my story. So it was calculated up to a point, and then I realized I can always find one more thing to work at or try and get in place. And now it's the right time. Yeah.
It's about setting that kind of time for you.
Yeah.
And then how do you think about that when that time is right? Is there any guidance on that, or is it? I mean, you just decided.
Yeah, I don't know. It was a spontaneous decision, but it felt right.
Okay.
My gut, it felt right.
So essentially, it is giving up some financial security.
Yeah.
Essentially. So potentially, you could earn more money in some months, less than others.
Yeah.
Is that a fair way of looking at it? But you're okay to give that up for. What are the upsides that you were kind of both planning on getting? What does that list look like?
That's absolutely right. You've got your good months, you've got your, but you sort of they tend to even out, and you start to get an idea of of your sort of income per month, and you plan accordingly. And I don't know, to get out of it is the autonomy of just doing what you want to do and how you want to do it is incredible. And you make the decisions, you can prioritize what's important in your life. You don't have to work with people you don't want to work with. And all of those things you weigh up against what it is you want to get out of freelancing and business.
Yeah, like having my own time really makes a big difference, because I don't have to be at a client's at a certain time. It's just like, when do you need this done? And then they trust me enough to get it done in time. But what that means is that I can get all of the admin that you usually have to leave for the weekend. I can get that done in the week, like groceries, or I don't know, those small things that you have to do in the weekend that are just frustrating. So you can get them done in the week, and then your weekend is actually relaxing and restful, and you just can have a bit of a better social life. So I love having that time freedom for one, but at the same time it's also super important to have a routine. So I have to make sure I get out of bed and have a breakfast and do the things that you would even if you were in a permanent job, because I've had days when it's like, okay, I'm feeling a bit lazy, I could watch a bit of TV while I have breakfast, and then you're on Netflix, and then it's 4 o'clock and you've been on your couch the whole day. So you do have to also really be strict about your routine, and especially with that, your friends and family, when they think you're a freelancer, they think that you don't actually work. So they're like, oh, can you go fetch, my sister's like, can you go fetch my kid from school? Or, oh, can you go do this for me? You're not doing anything, you're at home. No, but I have to work. If I break my routine, I break my routine badly. So you really have to make sure you pick that balance well.
Okay, so that seems like a cool piece of advice for people once they've begun freelancing. Maybe if we can try and figure out what advice would you give to people thinking about doing it? So when I asked the question, who's keen to freelance? And a lot of hands went up, right? And I chatted to a bunch of guys here who have full-time jobs, and some of the guys are freelancing on the platform, and they're getting some weekend work, but they're finding that really hard to balance. So what is the advice from you guys who've done the thing, and in different ways? What different sets of advice would you give to people thinking about trying to make that move?
I want to know why first. Maybe you guys all said you want to freelance. Why?
I feel like I'm more productive when I work on my own time than when I work at work.
Okay.
Because work you're kind of pressured, and when I have a 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. type of thing, and sometimes as developers you cannot really code from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. You might actually find a solution the last 10 minutes before you go home. So when I'm at home, I'm more relaxed and my brain is clear. I work faster. That's why I do this.
Well, my advice again is that I think that's a good enough reason. So, some days, if you're in permanent work, you're expected to do the 8-hour thing. But sometimes you're just too tired, or you've had a really exhausting mental session, and you know that for the next 2 hours you're not going to be productive. So having that freedom to say, okay, I'm not billing from 2 to 4 because I really just need a break. That's one of the great parts of freelancing as well.
I agree 100%. You need to answer that why question. Once you know why you want to do it, you're halfway there or 3/4 there. I haven't had a single day where I struggle to get up in the morning. When you run your business and you know you need to pay the bills, you get up. I struggle to sleep in over weekends. So that's whereas when you're corporate, it's the other way around.
Yeah.
But once you can answer that why question, and you're self-motivated and you can make it work, there's no reason why not to do it. I think everything is aligning beautifully at the moment in the world. It's just the right time. And technology, cloud, the internet, machine learning moment everything is aligning, and it's just creating a platform where a small guy, a small team, a small business can compete with the big dogs. In fact, we could probably beat them at their own game at the moment by just being smart at how we work, and yeah, so that's my advice, is work from what you want to do, come back, work it backwards, and then start building those relationships, start getting those skills, start taking those courses, and put that stake in the ground and just do it.
So there's an amazing video by Simon Sinek, I don't know if you've seen it, it's a TED talk, it's called Start With Why. And I think it's like a really pertinent thing to this. Do you guys have any tools or tricks on like trying to think about the why and what actually matters? Because you just sit down and be like, why do I want to do this? That's kind of a hard thing. How do you guys explore that? Do you have tricks of like, what if I had no job, what would I do with my life? Like, what thought tricks did you use?
For me, I've actually gone through all of the jobs that I've had, and I listed out why not. So I listed why I didn't like that job, and it was because of micromanaging. Why didn't I like this job? It was because travel was too far. Why didn't I like this job? You know, so I actually went through why not first,
Right.
which helped me then define the why.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good trick.
I'm a big fan of life hacks and workplace hacks and productivity hacks and all of that. And the one that works for me is I've got a sort of, I don't want to call it goals, because goals you can get to. I've got these things, so it's more like a direction I want to go into, and you're always on that sort of path. And what I do is when I plan my days and my sort of short-term, I do my short-term planning, it's against, am I getting closer to reaching that unattainable sort of goal? So because you've got these things, that it's not about reaching a monetary goal or anything like that. It's more like it's personal things. You actually make time to learn. You actually make it part of your weekly schedule is actually to make time to do a course or I subscribe to Data Camp, for example. You make time to build your network. You make time for other people. You make time for the community, because your goal is you've got a goal at the end, and everything else is just working towards in that direction.
Okay, that's awesome. Any other questions on like life hacks?
When is the right time in your career to actually consider freelancing? Like, do you have to
Sorry,
do
this
this?
is one. Sorry.
Good. When is the right time in your career to actually consider freelancing? Do you need to have, as a software developer, do you need to have like a level of skill, like maybe be a senior developer instead of a junior? Is there like a specific criteria?
So I started my career as a developer, and I worked my way through. Yes, it's difficult to say. Okay, let's put it this way: experience is a good thing, and it won't harm you. But you've got some kids coming out of college doing some amazing things in this world. So I can't tell you, don't just get more experience. You just have to feel comfortable. And I think if you can answer that why question, and then you look at the practical side of it. I mean, if you want to build the next AI startup company, but you don't know the first thing about artificial intelligence, then you should probably stick to your job for a little bit longer and make sure you pick up those skills. I'm not saying don't do it, I'm just saying then actually deliberately spend the next 18 months or 12 months and build up those skills. But see how you can combine it with the skills you've already got. And that's your differentiator, is don't be like everybody else, be you, and be an awesome you, and use what you've got, and just supplement it with what you need to get to that sort of point. But you can, there's going to be some 17-year-old kid tomorrow starting his own company is going to change the world. I can't tell you need 5 years of experience. You just need to feel comfortable with where you are now.
I would say also start like the spontaneous thing. I wouldn't advise it, but I would say, start with the weekend clients or the late night clients. So work a bit harder so that you build up a bit of a network of clients. So the one thing about freelancing is the work you do is actually much harder because every single day you need to prove to the client that you are worth, them having you as a freelancer rather than a permanent employee, because it's more risky for them. So every single day you actually have to work the hardest that you ever would. Like they can say to you at a moment's notice, listen, we're not happy, sorry. Whereas a permanent client or permanent job needs to give you notice. So I would say first build up a bit of a network, but then in terms of skill sets, freelancing taught me so much in so little time. When I left my permanent job, I was titled as a junior. That was last year March. And now I go in as lead positions. And that's in the space of a year. Whereas that should typically take a UX designer about 8 to 10 years to do. So when you freelance, you work with different types of companies. So you work for corporates, non-profits, startups, agencies, everything. So you learn those different things, which means you learn how to work with different types of teams. You work with small teams, big teams, remote teams, intimate teams. So you learn different team dynamics. And then you learn different contexts. So, I've done finance stuff, insurance stuff, health stuff. So then you increase your knowledge about different things. So with freelancing, you actually progress much faster because you're forced to learn all of these different things. So in terms of your level, I wouldn't say just because you're a junior, according to permanent things, that you shouldn't. Especially because a lot of people place like your skills, they base it on the number of years of experience, whereas you can have someone who's worked for like 30 years and they're still not fantastic. Or you could have the 17-year-old who's been just out of varsity who's like amazing. So for me, that's not a valuable criteria.
So when you're making that move, it sounds like you've got to have some bravery, obviously, it seems like, or planning, depending on your personality side. But it seems like there's a lot of soft skills as well, right? So there's the hard skills discussion, how many years experience do I need in this? So we've got, on our freelancer base, we've got like a wide array of juniors and seniors. And it comes, obviously it's kind of table stakes, having the skills and like, I can do this thing. Obviously you want to have the skills that are more in demand, and that kind of thing. So you've got that hard skills aspect. Well, what are the soft skills that are like absolutely critical to make that move? Like if you're really bad at talking to people, is that a deal breaker? Are you bad at time management? What are those things that are critical to make that move?
I would say know what your bad skills are. So if time management is a problem, then get some sort of a tool or an app that helps you with that. But in terms of soft skills, like you also have to be the salesperson. So you have to be able to talk to clients. You have to be able to convince them that you're the right person for the job. You don't have a consulting company doing that part for you. And that for me is just about like reading the client, so understanding their needs and what are they looking for, and then making them feel comfortable enough to bring you on. And don't miss deadlines. Transparency is a huge thing. One wrong move, unfortunately, will lose you a client who will then, your reputation is everything, especially as a freelancer, so it's dangerous in that sense.
Okay, so just to really like try and sum this up, was like transparency was in there, time management, I don't know how that...
Client relations.
Yeah. Okay.
So that old saying of undersell and over deliver, under promise and over deliver is very true when you work for yourself. You build that relationship by delivering on what you say you're going to do. The easiest way to lose it is by not delivering on what you're saying you're going to do. So I agree, just to add to that, I agree with everything you're saying. And you kind of just have to wing the things that you're not good at. You have to get out there, you have to meet people, you have to sell yourself even though it feels horrible. You have to do it, you know you have to do it. And after a while it just becomes easier. And,
Yeah.
Yeah, because the next question here is like, so how do you develop these things? You're basically just saying you got to do it.
Yeah.
Right? So you learn through doing. So it's back to the courage thing.
There's no easy way. There's nobody's going to hold your hand. So you either do it or you don't, and you potentially will lose your business or your client. So you have to just be tough and just do it. Yeah.
So I'm just going to open up for some questions. So at the moment, like we'll talk a little bit later about like what's super important to like really get into like freelancing and become super successful. We're still in the early stage of like how do I get into it, and what are the soft skills I need. So like questions around that. Some of those, I saw some hands. Are your questions? You still want me to pay? Sorry. There's a roaming mic. Thanks, Al.
Hi everyone. So basically my question would be, I've heard Inez was mentioning that you need to get your name out there, but how do you start, especially if you're a novice freelancer? Because at the end of the day, I mean, I could start with the weekend projects, but who knows me? You get what I mean? Like nobody knows what my skills are, nobody knows what I can do. I mean, it's only limited to where I'm working, but I'm more interested in how do you actually go about like getting your name out there, so yeah.
So for me, getting my name out there was quite easy because I run these two non-profit organizations which are quite successful. So when I made the move, I kind of just announced it at one of my events, and that was kind of it. Yeah, so my events, we attract a lot of different people, from banks to agencies to startups to all of them. So everyone now kind of knows that I freelance. So I would say go to all of the networking events, and networking is another like soft skill. So people think networking is really well, they know that they have to do it, but it's also really hard. Like you'll go to an event and you might have a bit of a small talk with someone, but exchanging details and actually meaningfully saying like, okay, let's really go for this coffee. Usually you'll just say, yeah, we should have a coffee, and then you never actually do. So learning how to network meaningfully, that's a really important soft skill. So making a really good impression and then following up and saying, really enjoyed chatting to you. How about that drink? Yeah.
I can add there, just spoiler alert, shameless plug coming up. Register as a main freelancer. We match on skills, so it's basically like if you're a skill match, then you get notified, hey, there's a job. So there's a freelancer, successful freelancer sitting right in front of you, actually. Basically, if you're a skill match, then you go and meet the client and all that kind of stuff. So because we're also new, we started in January, we don't have a full rating system just yet. We're still like building all of that stuff up. So we basically go on skill match, and then like you meet the client, you chat to them, and if they like you, then you go on there. So everybody sign up. Yeah.
Where do you find networking events?
Where do you find networking events? So yeah. So if you go to OfferZen, events.offzen.com, there's a feed of all the events in Cape Town and Johannesburg, and just those two cities for now. And Durban, and it's meetups, those kinds of things. Specifically, mainly in the tech and some of the software design space. So another shameless plug.
There's a really good chance that if you take your tool set and you look at, let's say you're a Java developer or a UX developer, there will be a meetup in Joburg for it, definitely. And that's where you start. And you start with your small, immediate community. And you don't try and sell there. You just start to actually make friends and make connections and build that relationship. And 3 months down the line, somebody said, oh yeah, you're the UI, UX person.
Yeah.
And that's how it works. You don't go and sell or anything. You just start by getting yourself out there, take that plunge, and it's not so bad. It's actually these community events are actually very enjoyable. And
yeah, I can vouch for that. I got my job at OfferZen in the same way. So That's why we're doing this. So it's going to do that. More questions?
There was one over here.
Okay.
I just wanted to add, there's a really cool podcast from Adam Grant's Work Life. He has this podcast series about how to network for people who don't like networking or feel awkward, and it's really super useful. So yeah, that's a tab on my side.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mine's not really a question, but just sliding into the soft skills that you're talking about. I think for me, what I've learned is being honest with yourself, because you're venturing into the unknown, where you're trying to get a job with many clients who are used to traditional way of employment. So I think one of the key soft skills that one needs to have is honesty with oneself. That way you'll be able to accept your weaknesses and accept any help that you can get from anyone else to help you improve all your soft skills.
Yeah, and I think that's to add to that, it's a hard thing to do. So I don't know if you guys have experience with it, but having a buddy or someone that you can work with, or that's like a kind of colleague in that world, I mean, it can be lonely, right? So how do you know what you're good at, what you're bad at? At OfferZen, we've got a high feedback culture, and we can get that from that. Naomi always tells me what I'm doing stupidly and that kind of stuff, which is great. I love her for it, and she's there to help me with it. How do you deal with that when you're on your A's?
I have a performance evaluation survey type thing.
Okay.
So after each project, I ask my clients to fill it in, almost like you would have reviews in a permanent job. So they give you feedback on where you were lacking, what was great, and yeah. So I make sure I get that feedback.
Geez, I don't have anything official like that. That's a really good idea. I'll make a mental note. But I just actually deliberately go out and sit and work in coffee shops with some of my, what can I call it, who's in the same business as we are. We'll meet up every couple of weeks and we'll sit for 4 or 5 hours and bash out some stuff, and just that sort of that works well. I mean, I love sitting at home working from home, and all the dogs are there, and it's quite cozy. But then you do need to get out and
Yeah, and one other thing, if you guys aren't on ZA Tech Slack, there's a global or South African Tech Slack, which is definitely there's a freelance discuss channel there, there's a freelance jobs channel, there's a whole bunch of tech specific channels. So go on there, there's a bunch of people who can help you. We also have a make Slack for anyone who's registered as a freelancer. It's like a freelance specific version of that. But those kinds of things are quite cool. We've seen people sharing hey, I built this site, and just putting it out there, and people being like, hey dude, you're doing that wrong or this wrong or that kind of stuff. So you don't necessarily have to get out of the house to get help from other people. There are a lot of places like that where people are just kind of hanging around waiting to help you. So use them.
but do get out of the house.
Yes, and come to the yeah. Mr. O'Brien.
How do you stay diligent when working from home? How do you avoid that cabin fever, and where do you sort of get that inspiration from?
I don't know.
Like a permanent job, you set your alarm as you do. As I said, if you miss it, the days when I miss it, it's a complete. Can I swear? You fuck up. So, with a permanent job, if you don't show up at work, you're gonna get in trouble. So you kind of gotta do that for yourself. Like if I don't work today, I'm not gonna get paid for these hours on time, or for these hours. Therefore, it's R0 coming in for the day. So yeah, so I kind of think okay, if I sleep another hour, I'm losing out on X amount of money. Okay, no, I want that money. I'm gonna get out of it.
No, motivation is the last thing to worry about.
Yeah, having done the same thing, nothing motivates you like no money.
Yeah.
Especially having if you start a company and you employ people, then you get up early hours, because you don't have to worry about your own salary but others as well. So it's that one will
I had my brother-in-law's bachelor's on Saturday, and if I was still working for a corporate, I might have just phoned in on Monday morning. Working for yourself, you get up and you just
you try.
Actually, Is it still working? Good thing is also if you do work for a client, so if you do like regular catch-ups or whatever, try schedule your meetings for mornings like 8 or 9 or whatever, so you actually have to get up. You don't have to get dressed or anything, because you can do a Skype call, but at least it forces you to get out of bed, which is helpful, yeah.
Cool, I think we got like 2 more questions and then we're going to head to the break. There's one over there.
Okay, following up on this question, so how do you avoid sitting into a workaholic? So, as you said,
Now, that is the real question. Yeah, I think that's where the diligence comes in. You have to still make your personal relationships number one. You still have to go out on your mountain bike or what it is you enjoy doing. I don't know, but that's where the real effort comes in for me, because it's so easy to just pass 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock and keep working. And that's where the discipline comes in for me, is just to say, you know what, at 5 o'clock, take a break, go for a ride, and maybe come back at 8 o'clock and do another hour or 2. But yeah, that you have to deliberately make sure that you keep a balanced life, because it will catch up with you, and usually it catch up with you in unexpected ways, like back problems or something like that. Yeah.
And it's really hard because I find myself almost saying yes to every single client that approaches me. So at the moment I've got 4 different clients who are all kind of semi full-time. So it's like 10 or 11 hour days. But so on the one, it's the fear that but maybe next month I won't have anything, so I should try and get all of this money in right now. But number 2 is also that because it's so different, it's like, okay, but this one is like a corporate in insurance, and this one is like about health and pharmaceuticals. It's so different. If I don't take this now, when am I going to get the chance? So it's a mixture. It's like you do have to find the balance, but it's exciting as well. So I'm definitely a workaholic.
And I'm the moderator, but I also want to jump in here. So I think one of the most useful things that I've personally experienced is just making sure that your why is super clear. So like once you've chosen that, remind yourself why you chose that. And that was to give you self-determination, to give you autonomy, and to give you the power to make that choice to go surfing when you want to do it. When I did it, it was like, I can do this. I can go surfing if I want to when I look outside, so I'm going to do it. Even if something burns or I make less money. So having that, like, your goals or your North Star, or whatever that reason is, up somewhere that constantly reminds you.
And to chip in there, one thing, there was a big study now recently where they've guessed how many productive hours people spend at work on an average day. 2 or 3. So you realize when you work for yourself and you've got a focused block of 2 or 3 hours, you realize that you're actually doing what you used to do in a full day in a corporate job. If you take away all the coffee breaks, so a 6 hour day as a freelancer is actually a lot of work, and you actually get a lot done in 6 hours. So don't think of it in terms of you have to work 10 or 12, or don't think of it in terms of working more will be better. Think of quality. Think of spending deliberate quality time working, not hours. That's my sort of take on it.
Yeah, and I think when we launched our freelancing community and product, a lot of people were like, why don't you bill per hour?
Yeah.
And we said, look, I don't think it's like that. We don't believe fundamentally that like our tracking is a thing that's productive to actually saying, I did a day's worth of work. If you said I did a day's worth of work, my client says you did a day's worth of work, you get paid a day's worth of work.
Yeah.
That's a kind of, so we try and back that philosophy.
Or outcome.
Yeah. Okay, so I got a sign that said end from Robin at the back. So it's not the end, it's the break time. So go mingle, go to the toilet, have a smoke if you need, grab something to eat, grab something to drink, and then we'll be back here in 15 minutes. Okay, so thanks everyone for like ambushing us during the break. Super cool to see everyone's like so invested and like curious about so many things. And one thing I realized in the break is that a lot of people are already registered on the Make Freelancing platform, and I didn't ask how many people are registered on the Make Freelancing platform. Wow, okay, awesome. Hi everyone. Suitophobia on Slack. Cool, so this kind of second session we want to jump in to what it actually takes to like be successful. And during the break, some of the guys and girls have been asking about like, real concrete things, like where do you go, where do you start, what do you do, what are the life hacks, what platforms do you use, do you go on Fiverr, do you go on Upwork, do you go on the Make Freelancing platform, do you do these things, what are the ups and downs of that. So essentially, we want to start looking at that and going, okay, where do you get your work? So it seems like a super practical one. Where do you start getting work, actual real work?
So for me, as I said, I was really lucky because of the non-profit communities that I'm a part of. Because all the designers in the industry then know me. In addition to that, I have used things like Upwork, which I found really difficult because you get paid through PayPal, and unless you're on F&B, it's really difficult to get your money out. So I've never recommended that. And then I think another really important thing is there are so many people that have skills that you could actually do something with, so you could also create your own work. Meet up with 4 or 5 people that you meet here tonight and be like, why don't we just develop an app or something, or let's find a problem and solve it in some way. We've all got the skills. Do a bit of stuff in our free time so that we can showcase that, first of all, we can work on our own, we can manage our own time, you know, those soft skills kinds of things. So creating your own work is also really another way to do it, as opposed to just waiting for someone to approach you. Yeah, those are some things that I've also done with people. Yeah.
Please.
Okay, yeah. I found LinkedIn to be a good tool for me. In the beginning, I thought, you know, everybody would just know what I do and they'll approach me and it will be awesome. And then I realized, yeah, it just doesn't work like that. You actually have to define clearly what it is you do. You have to look carefully for companies and other people's problems, and you have to kind of match what you can do with their problems and show them how you're going to solve their problems. And that sort of approach has been quite successful for me, is when people just don't actually know what it is they want, and as soon as you speak business to them, they start to see the value and they start to see how it can actually help them. And then we had an interesting discussion just now. I've also just built a bit of an ecosystem around myself and my business by partnering with other freelancers and companies. And it's a very simple thing. Is when you go into a meeting and you need an AI guy, I'm your guy, bring me with. And vice versa, if I need somebody with more cloud experience or that sort of thing, I'll bring them in. And through those sort of channels and partnerships, I get quite a bit of work.
And have you tried any of those like platforms online? Have you
I haven't tried platforms, no. I have to admit I haven't even tried OfferZen. I made another mental note to sign up.
You write on the blog, so that's all right.
Yeah, on the veterans.
So let's touch on that. Why do you write on the blog?
So part of today I realized, okay, I want to do my own thing. I realized that absolutely nobody knows what I can do, and nobody's got an idea. My client used to be the company, you know, so I used the marketing department or the engineering department used to be my client. And I realized that there's nobody out there that cares, knows whatever I do. And I had to find a way to to just get myself out there. And I'm not the in-your-face kind of salesperson, so I can't just come, you need me. That sort of, I hate that sort of approach. So my approach was to do some cool stuff and get it out there. And one of the first things I did is I created this sort of imaginary setup. I thought, okay, can I grow a chili plant, use a Raspberry Pi, and use a Google Home Assistant to control this whole thing using computer vision? And from OfferZen picked up on it and wrote an article, and we co-wrote an article, and from that, so many people have approached me, come talk, come do this, and I just went, wow, okay. I had a bit of fun over a couple of weekends at home, growing some chili plants, and it actually got me out there, and so I just kept going with that sort of approach.
Yeah, so it's pretty plain not here, but he's got a really interesting story of a freelancer who was talking to that he'd been matched for a job with. And he was trying to get the guy, so the skills were matched, but soft skills like, but then he wasn't sure how he could sell this guy to the client. And after 30 minutes of asking him what stuff he's been doing, it turns out that this guy actually has an arcade in the township, next to where he lives, and he teaches the guys how to make games. And this is an amazing story of something that shows character and initiative and all of this stuff, but this guy's got the story, he doesn't know it's important, right? It's hidden some way. And we talked a little bit about it during the break of going, okay, so if I jump into a in-demand skill, React Native, React.js, something like that, and I learn it, then I'll just get the job. But that's not the actual thing, it's learn it, but create the surface area. Have the public PRs, the GitHub history, your project, those kinds of things that you could point to, like your blog post, that can show who you are from that match perspective. Do you do that kind of surface, or I suppose you would do your events, right? Or
Yeah. So the events that I run get a lot of attention.
Okay.
Yeah.
And any other tricks on that aspect that you can think of from the software development world, Dries?
So blog posts, it's hard work to write a blog post, but it is worth it. I would say in that perspective, don't try and be too technical. I found that my most technical posts on LinkedIn and wherever gets 50 people to watch it. Talk about your cat or your dog, or grow a chili plant, and there's 2,000. It's so try and find human kind of things with a human element, things that people go through every day, things that are interesting, instead of trying to show off your technical skills. At the end of the day, your technical skills won't get you the job. It's actually that connection that you make. Your technical skills is really important, but that's not what gets you the job. That's all I'm trying to say.
Okay, and then one other thing that we match on is price and your desired rate.
Yeah.
How do you know how much to ask for or charge?
So I change my rate based on who the client is. So for corporates, I up it. For startups or nonprofits, I bring it down a bit. And then there was a whole thing on Twitter, actually, a whole thread where a guy explained all the things you have to think about. So you do have to spend quite a lot of time thinking about all the things you'll need. So you need to factor in sick days, you need to factor in leave days, you need to factor in the equipment you'll need to buy, the programs, your monthly subscriptions to programs that you'll need. You need to factor in your medical aid, your RA. So you need to think about all the things that your company generally would help you pay for. And then, kind of based on that. And then if I am charging a lower rate for a company that I know can't afford what a corporate could, my biggest thing is I show them the discount that I'm giving them. So I will say, I would be charging you this, but this is the discount I'm giving you. So that people just always know kind of what your worth is. So if you're working for a really big company or a corporate, this is what you would charge. So they know that what your worth is. Yeah.
Dries?
From that sort of perspective, I tend to come in on a bit of the higher end. I've read somewhere that if not at least 20% of your clients complain about your price, you're too cheap. So I took that time seriously. And no, actually, on a more serious note, what I found is if you go in and you do things cheap and you do things, you don't get taken seriously. But if you do things very professionally from a sort of quoting perspective, you get taken seriously and it's a win-win on both sides. So whatever I charge, I obviously try and make sure that I give them at least double that back in terms of quality and the experience. Instead of trying to come in low and you have to spread yourself too thin. So that's my sort of approach. We were just discussing how it's a good discussion. Often clients don't know what they want, and it's really important to spend a good 2 days with a client and make them pay for it so that they actually take it seriously. But spend 2 days with a client, ask them 100 questions, ask them 1,000,000 questions, get everybody involved, and then start writing. I know it's agile, I mean, not all BAs, but as freelancers you have to be. And start writing those user stories and start building the story and get that picture. So that when you do start work, that you've got a better chance of actually building them something that they really do need.
Yeah, I think that's a super interesting last comment there of like something they really do need, right? So we have freelancers who have said, will you please take this client and charge them the 15%? They were coming to me in any case, but can you just deal with them because I don't want to have to like figure out whether they need this thing or not, which is an interesting thing because we don't want to take clients on and do something for them and then they don't need it, but we want it. So we chatted earlier before we started about what it means to deliver value for your clients and how important that is. Do you want to unpack that a little bit?
Absolutely. So the artificial intelligence, machine learning world is not well defined. It's still very new, and we're still setting out, how things are going to happen over the next 20 years or so. So what I try and do is to create value very early on. And within 2 weeks, there's something that can sort of prove the concept, that can prove the technology works, and build that trust. And then I would say, okay, now that I've shown that the core piece of the puzzle works, and it's possible. If you say I'm going to monitor all I'm going to do sentiment analysis on all your tweets, people are going to go, can you really do that? It sounds cool, we've read about it, but what about, in South Africa is a bit different and people don't understand sarcasm in South Africa or whatever. And you take that piece and you go and build it, and you make sure that you can show that part, the vital, or where the sort of, when things are a little bit not clear, make sure that works, try and get that done in 2 or 3 weeks. And then you go back and say, okay, now that we know the technology will work, let's build this thing for you. And then you can, and then you work towards a more longer-term relationship or a more monthly kind of thing. But build that trust very early on. That's what I would say.
Yeah, agree. Disagree.
No, I agree completely. And I agree, especially with the part where you say, ask the client questions and help them figure out what it is that they actually want. So in design, user experience is often paired with user interface design. And there's some people who are both and who want to do both UX and UI. I'm someone who doesn't want to, I don't enjoy visual design at all. So I need to sit with the clients, and there's been a lot of times they're like, I just really need this to look beautiful. And that's when I'm like, no, that's not what I do. So you have to make sure that they know exactly what you do and how you can help them. So asking those questions up front and making sure that you're the right person for the job is really, really important. And sometimes they'll be like, I need this website to be built. And if you keep asking them why, you might just be like, no, you don't need a website. You actually need something else. Like this isn't
Generate a Google
actually,
sheet or-
yeah, it's not actually going to solve your problem. Are you sure you want to go into all of this? And when you can show them that you've got that expertise of helping them solve a problem that they didn't realize, then you build that trust, and then that's, yeah.
And even after you've gone through all of this and asked a lot of questions, you might still get it wrong, and then that's important to make sure that your feedback loops are short. Like you should be seeing your client or show them something at least every 2 weeks, I would say.
Yeah, I think it's something that we've seen with successful freelancers, and you mentioned it before we started as well, about just being on your client's team. So you think of like the original origin of freelance. It's like you get a lanceman or like a dude to come and fight on your battle with like on your team, and he comes and he like runs around on your team. He's not like an agent. So I see it as a little bit different. Agency, and often people ask us like, what's the difference between contracting, freelancing, agencies, all that kind of stuff. And it's just getting someone on your team who has your back, who's going to tell you don't build this thing. He's not going to go, okay, well, build it because I'm going to get a day's worth of work. That's like invested in that long-term kind of relationship.
Absolutely.
So we've definitely seen what you guys are saying on our platform. So the important part is like get in, help the client, really add the value. What is the hardest thing like about freelancing?
I can start. I think the hardest thing for me is to understand that your urgency, your timing, and how you plan your life, and it means nothing to your client. They've got their own timing and they've got their own budgets and whatever to work through. So when somebody says to you, I'm going to call you tomorrow, are you ready, and you've got capacity, and you want to get going, and then it takes another 2 weeks to go through the whole procurement process or whatever at that company. So you have to kind of make sure that you've got a very wide pipeline of potential clients to feed into, so that you've got hopefully got a constant stream of projects and work. And that was very difficult for me in the beginning, because you've either got 4 clients or no clients. You never have hands and paws. And it's to try and manage that sort of flow and get a more constant flow of work.
Yeah. I think for me the hardest part is the admin that a permanent job would do for you. So quoting the clients, making sure that you're scoping their project correctly and quoting accurately, doing contracts, so making sure that they sign a contract that you're comfortable with and that you're not signing something that you're not comfortable with. So for example, I've had clients where the contract then says I wasn't able to work for any of their clients for a period of 12 months or something. So doing your own legal work, so reading through the contracts and saying that's unrealistic, I'm a freelancer, I can't be restricted who I can and cannot work for. So contracts is difficult, following up on payments is difficult. You have to remember, did I get paid, didn't I get paid? And then things like taxes, you have to manage your own taxes because you register as a provisional tax. It's got its ups and downs, more ups, but it's hard to get into it and to understand what's happening with your money. So yeah, all that admin stuff is the worst for me. Things like, right now I'm struggling, I can't get a bond, so trying to buy a house. And as a freelancer, I earn more than I would if I was a permanent employee, but the banks won't give me a bond.
Yeah.
Because it's unreliable. So that's hard.
Okay, and what bits of the hard stuff gets easier and what bits stay hard?
So I think you just have to learn and find out what systems work for you. So every time I send an invoice, then I put a reminder in my calendar for a month later to follow up or to check off if I've received it. I've hired I've got a financial person that does all of my taxes for me and they calculate all of that for me. So there's a fee that I obviously have to pay them, but takes that admin out of it. I haven't figured out how I'm going to buy a house yet. I don't know.
Yeah, I would say automate as much as you can from the start, and on the admin side, because that can really knock you down for a couple of hours when you can ill afford it. So pay an accountant, get proper accounting software, make sure it's cloud based. Those kind of things is it's important. I agree with you.
Okay, I think one other thing that you touched on earlier, Dries, around having a thick pipeline. It's quite a difficult thing. And we've seen on our platform we have 1,000 devs, and it's not obviously not enough work for 1,000 devs. So we actually encourage people to keep their options open, be on all the platforms, have all of that kind of thing, because you want to have that pipeline wide. At what point do you feel, you said it's ups and downs, at what point does it kind of get solid? And what point do you feel where does that become less of a stress, or is that just always a stress? Or like the pipeline of work?
So my business is 6-7 months old, and I quickly realized that you write December and January off, nothing happens. And then there's a big flurry in February. There was a big flurry in November, getting I think stuff done before the years. People need to tick off on their to-do list. So I can't really say. So far, it's been very up and very down for me. But the pipeline is looking good, so hopefully I can keep it constant and flowing.
So for me, I work for one big corporate that are my main source of income, and it's I kind of just ensure that I always do good work for them, and I've renewed my contract with them 3 times now. So I've got the one thing that I know will actually be consistent, and I think I'll probably be there for 2 or 3 years just because it's stable. But they know that I'm a freelancer, so I'm only really in office once a day and then working hourly depending on what they need. But that assures me that I will be stable for a long time. And then because I enjoy working with different types of teams and different industries, the rest of my time is then dedicated to less stable things, shorter term projects and things like that. So have one key client that is going to be stable.
Cool. I've got one question for you, and then I'll open up to everyone else. So if you could go back to the beginning, to when you decided to go to freelancing, what piece of advice would you give yourself?
Good idea, do it.
Future me to past me, I would say just build a better website, dude. That's the only regret I've got so far is my website is a bit subpar, but I figured that it's more important. This is how it works. Just put yourself out there.
Good job.
But I figured it's more important to actually meet people and actually build relationships with clients and to have a fancy website. But if I had to choose something.
Cool. I think questions from the audience. Yes, in the back. Can we get a roaming mic there? Thanks, Charles.
The question please, I wanted to ask, what is the money issue? So you pointed out that you also have problems having clients in a constant flow of money in your business. And looking at you, you have vast experience. So what advice would you give for someone who's starting up in freelancing, where already there is an overflow of developers? You pointed out that there are over 1,000 developers and it's not enough. There's not enough projects for all of them. So what advice would you give to starting up freelancer not to make the mistake of jumping into low budget projects for very problematic clients? What would you advise them to do? And also taking into consideration that probably they've taken the risk, like what you did, giving your boss a call, while you are halfway across the globe and quitting your job, and you don't have any source of income? What advice would you give to such a person?
I would say don't be afraid of doing the low-paying jobs, but find the ones that are valuable. So when we say that there's like too many freelancers and too little jobs, I think that's a bit of an excuse. I think that there's too few jobs that can pay us what we want to be paid. So that's that's the difficulty, is leaving the corporate money. But like in the first 3 months when I started, as I said, I worked with startups and non-profits, and there wasn't a lot of money in it at all. But it gave a lot of value, and then they were able to say, oh, this person did this kind of work to me, and you can slowly then just up your rate, and like especially with startups, if you find ones that are really doing amazing work, if they can't pay you immediately, you can say, okay, I want shares then. So when you do get your funding, I'll get that money. But I think it's like when you start working, you can't expect to get a high salary immediately. So if you're restarting your way of work, you kind of have to be prepared for that. Yeah. So
I think that, like, if I can add to it, having seen a lot of freelancers trying to take on this endeavor, it comes down to the basic two things. It's like, one, do things. Just do as many things as you can. Just do lots of things. Two, make sure that people know you're doing those things. Like, just do lots and let people know that you're doing this stuff. Even if it's chili plants, those kinds of things come out and they create these opportunities. But be brave, do the things and tell people you're doing them. Even if you're scared that the things you're doing are terrible, at least you'll get feedback, you'll get better. I think that's, for me, the guys that are doing that they're unstoppable.
because remember your why. You're not doing this for money. Otherwise you'd stay in the corporate. So remember the why, and I think that will.
Cool. Question? Yeah? Logan? Sorry. One coming.
Okay, I just wanted to ask, in terms of financial pitfalls, when you know that your income's not stable, what are some crucial things that you have to avoid going into it? Like luxuries such as not being able to get a bond right off the bat, right? Things like that in your day-to-day that could present an issue end of the month that you might not see right up front. Have you guys faced any, and if so, what are they?
On my side, I had a lot of subscriptions to audiobooks and Netflix and this and that, and I just basically cancelled all of that. And credit cards, it's a big pitfall, and it's like a black hole. It's just money just keep on disappearing in there. And you don't need as much money as you think you do when you trim down, and you don't actually even have to eat for two or 3 days at a time. So I've learned to literally cut my budget to a quarter of what it used to be in a corporate. And I feel like I've still got exactly the same things. I've got the same quality of life, the same, but by just cutting all the crap out of your life. And now in terms of when you've got a good month and a bad month, then use up all your money in a good month. Just understand that it will be up and down, and just sort of, it will even out. So get that sort of middle ground when you spend money. Just keep it nice and consistent. That's all I can say. It's just, you actually just don't need as much as you think you do. You can get away with a lot less.
I try to put away about 60% of all payments, so that I know that would sustain me for at least 3 months of no work if necessary. Yeah. So save it.
When it comes to creating a quote, okay, you're presenting a solution and you want to secure payment, okay? do you go into a formal contract, or do you just rely on or hope that they will pay you on time? Do you ask for a deposit? Do you work like the builders where they give you like where you ask for an allowance up front? Or how do you work your billing?
So I've never done the deposit thing, but it sounds actually like a good idea. So first I do a detailed quote where I will scope out all of the tasks that would need to be done. I say this is how long I think it will take me, this is how the quote estimate. And then there's contractual obligations. So my clients have to sign this that says once I send the invoice, they will pay me a month after, like the latest is a month after they receive the actual invoice that they need to pay me. If they don't, then interest is charged for every late day. And they need to sign that before I start working for them. I've gone in like good faith and it doesn't work. And the thing is, I think that if I hadn't made those mistakes, I actually probably would have been better off with my bond application, because at least there'd be like steady income, as opposed to, so that month you didn't get paid, but the next month you got like 5 payments. I was like, yeah, but 3 of them were for the month before. So I do strict legal contractual binding agreements. Yeah.
I've had a very similar experience to you, in that I've got a system, I call it the 2-2-1 system. So my 2-2-1 system means I'm going to spend 2 days doing analysis at your company, and you pay up front for those 2 days. Then I'm going to do 2 weeks building a proof of concept. We've discussed it, and that is a 50% deposit with an invoice at the end. So you pay 50% on quotation and then get the balance in an invoice. And then to secure the long-term relationship, I've got a proper service level agreement, and that service level agreement is 30 pages. I paid a commercial lawyer over 30,000 Rand for it. They're not scared of charging, so I thought, why? and it actually, it's built in this contract, it's actually built in how often we have to meet during a month. So it's built into the contract that we have to do 2 Skype calls per month, so that there's proper feedback loops in the contract. And a couple of things that protects me and protects them, making sure that I deliver what I promise, and making sure that I don't wait for them for content or feedback or sign off or anything. So if I don't sign off on what I've delivered at the end of the month, I still invoice them. It's their problem, and that's built into a contract. And these problems, I've done it this way because I've dealt with clients and I've dealt with vendors for a long time, is these things come when you don't have a proper contract in place. All these little ambiguities in the language, and you said what comes in. And then it's like, I sat with vendors getting 50,000 Rand a month, for example. I had no idea what they were doing. But 3 years ago, my boss said to them, yeah, come in and come do some work. And then you just keep on paying them. And if there's not a proper contract, those kind of things happen. And I think when there's a contract, everybody knows what is their part to play. And
yeah, so from the Make platform side, so for instance, some of the freelancing guys, they do very explicit tasks with the scope of the work, and then an estimate on days, because we know that fixed scope generally on days is kind of scary, and then that daily rate, which you spoke about earlier. But we try and encourage our clients to go like with a small 5-day mission, which is like, sometimes they pay for you to do a Coursera thing or like something cool, but breaking it down into the units of work that are actually clear and deliverable, so like less of a commitment, and everything is a standard contractual kind of all-in-one for each one of those missions. So even if you're planning to do 20 days with a client, start with a 5-day eval mission or whatever the story is, so you can make sure that you're not putting all your eggs in one basket, as they say. Okay, 2 more questions. There's a mic in the back, and the lady over there.
Okay, I'm Chris. Maybe the question I should be saying is, how is it possible to get a point where you don't do scope creep? Like you don't get a scope creep between you and the client? Is it possible to get to that point? And if it's possible, how do you handle, what's that use case like? How do you get it up? What's your workflow? How do you handle your client with their scope and stay within the scope and yet deliver and be a good freelancer at the end of the day?
Ladies first.
So as I said, so when I do my quotes, I detail all the tasks that I see will be necessary to get them to where they need to be, and I put a lot of detail into that, and that acts as my scope of work. And then in the contract it says, like, this is an estimated, of how long I think it will take. If things arise that are out of scope or not detailed in this additional, you'll be billed additionally for it. So just telling them up front.
To add to it, I think that's why it's very important to do those analysis phases in the beginning, so you can write the user stories, to use agile terminology, and you have, with every story there needs to be a UAT part to say that if these things work, we tick this story off and it's done. And if one of those is not ticked off, the client needs to explain to you why, what was why did they not tick it off, or why they're not happy with it, and then they need to give you a reasonable amount of time to fix it. So it doesn't become one of these, or just always going on kind of like issues, and there's no end in sight. And then secondly, I would identify, if there's 20 items in my backlog, I would identify the 15 low risk items, and I'm very happy to quote on outcome of those 50, and the 5 risky ones I would then do on a more like an hourly kind of thing. So if I'm waiting for the client for information, or it's a sort of an unknown territory, that would be done on an hourly basis. If you waste my time, the clock ticks kind of thing. So there's always 60, 70, 80% of the work that's well defined, and you know what's going on, and it's easy to deliver, but it's the 20% that bites you.
Yeah, so from our side, we also very scared of that scope creep thing, because we put ourselves in the middle and say, like, look, we're going to vouch for this project. So if this scope creep, we make everyone unhappy. So kind of back to that freelancing analogy of the dude with the lance. When you hire that guy, you don't say, like, lance 14 people, bash 3 on the head, and like run around the back and kill the king. You say, like, fight with me for this battle. So we take that approach. We say that this is what the battle's probably going to entail, but I think you all know that software development has surprises and all of those kinds of things, and it's a battlefield out there. So we take that approach, and we try and get our clients to have that kind of, look, this guy's going to help you. We vouch that he's like a solid guy and he's a problem solver. But we can't say that the scope of what you're defining is the scope. And generally that's worked so far. Some surprises, but there was one last question over there. And then we'll kind of just break up, and feel free to come and ask questions or chat about it afterwards.
Okay, a little bit of a personal one. How do you tell friends and family no free work?
Exactly that. It's the worst. Do not work for friends and family. Do not do it. Yeah, I don't. I don't. I used to, and it just gets too much because they don't realize how much time goes into it or anything like that. Yes, I would advise against it, but I can't. I don't know how to say no. I usually end up just saying, I'm so sorry, I'm too busy.
It's a lie, just basically.
Yeah.
Dries, do you have an answer?
The answer is there's no answers. It's not easy. My wife started her own law practice a year and a half ago, so I'm IT support by default. And IT support is my email is not working. Why is my mic off? And I just learn to live with it. And I just write that time off as, it's a good investment in my and when I do need to do you need the time for my business to focus and stuff? I just make sure I disappear and I find a spot somewhere.
Lie and run away. Okay, just I know there are extra questions, but we are over time, so I just do need to break up for pudding time. Pudding, is it right? Pudding time. So it is pudding. Dessert. So please help yourselves. If you have questions, please come up and chat to us afterwards. I want to say thanks to everyone for coming. Awesome crowd. We do want to continue the conversation, so if you're on Make Slack, jump into all the channels. If you're not on Make Slack, register for Make. We're all there. You can chat to us, ask us a whole bunch of questions. And yeah, read the blog, do all those kinds of things, come to future events. Yeah, and just keep an eye on the blog for that. The hoodie winner is going to be announced just before we break up. Alex is going to come and announce it. Okay, we don't have the hoodie yet, I can send it to you. Okay, so being able to show your projects or getting them out to the public, possible to join this slides and stuff. Ru and B? There it is, there we go. Okay, you won the hoodie. Cool, so we'll get your size and stuff afterwards and we'll send you the hoodie. Again, thank you everyone for coming. We really, just if you can help us a little bit, we really want to make freelancing a real thing. And for that we need companies to believe that freelancing is a viable option. And we need people like you to believe that's the viable option. So help us with that in any way you can, whether it's having discussions, whether it's referring people, whether it's just asking questions. That's our mission, and please help us do it. So thanks for coming, and good night.